There is a silence deeper than death, a space untouched by time, a moment that unfolds when the soul no longer needs to return. In that sacred interval between incarnations, some souls dissolve into a luminous stillness, not lost, but liberated. According to Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, this rare cessation of reincarnation is not an escape, but a fulfillment. It marks the moment when the soul remembers its true essence and no longer seeks lessons in form. Most souls return, drawn by karma, by desires unfinished, by the magnetism of Earth's dense beauty and pain. But a few, very few, reach a threshold where the spiral of rebirth no longer calls them. These are not saints in the conventional sense. They are those who have recognized that they are not separate, who have integrated the dualities, who have awakened not just mentally, but vibrationally. It is not through striving that this cessation arrives, but through surrender, through deep presence, through the embodiment of universal law without resistance. Cayce spoke of these souls as having completed the earthly curriculum, as no longer bound by the need to experience polarity in physical form, and so they return to the source, or remain as guides, bodiless but aware, resonant yet unseen. If these words are already stirring something within you, subscribe to the channel and share in the comments. What do you feel stirring in your soul right now? Now let us go deeper. Reincarnation, as Cayce revealed, is not a punishment, but a progression, a spiral of return, ever guiding the soul toward remembrance. Each life is an echo of the soul's deeper longing, to know itself as divine, even amidst the illusion of separation. Most wander through lifetimes veiled by forgetfulness, tethered to karma, cycling through experiences in search of wholeness. But what causes this spiral to continue? Desire, attachment, regret, unfinished creation. The soul, still entangled in the dance of cause and effect, chooses to return. Sometimes to heal, sometimes to love better, sometimes to face the shadow long avoided. The earth is a school but also a mirror, and each incarnation is both a lesson and a reflection. Edgar Cayce taught that the soul chooses its next body, its family, even its challenges, guided by the law of attraction on a soul level. Yet, behind every choice is the deeper impulse to evolve, to harmonize, to release, to remember. And then, at a certain point in this spiral, something shifts. The soul ceases to seek externally. The lessons no longer arise from struggle but from silence. There emerges a sacred fatigue, not of exhaustion, but of completeness. A vibration so balanced, it no longer creates ripples in the waters of reincarnation. Those who reach this place do not return because they have nothing left to resolve. They have become the resolution itself. There comes a final incarnation, not always recognized as such even by the one living it, where the soul encounters its ultimate mirror. In Cayce's vision, this lifetime is not filled with glory, but with deep interior stillness. Often, it is marked by simplicity, humility, and profound inward integration. The soul is no longer seduced by identity, no longer fragmented by external roles. It walks lightly, without grasping. This final life is not free from challenge, but the relationship to suffering changes. Pain becomes transparent, like a wave that passes through without residue. There is no resistance, only observation. Joy, too, is no longer pursued, but arises spontaneously from presence. Everything is seen and yet nothing clung to. The soul's final earth experience is like the closing of a circle, not dramatic but complete. No more striving, no more becoming, just being. Often, such souls live quietly, unrecognized by the world, yet their presence alters the field around them. They radiate coherence. Their very breath carries the memory of the divine. Cayce hinted that these souls often return not out of need, but of service, as bodhisattvas cloaked in ordinary lives. Yet some truly complete the journey and move beyond the wheel, dissolving back into the deeper harmony from which all arises. Could it be that you've already sensed this call within, the quiet yearning to stop seeking and simply be? To no longer reincarnate is not an escape from Earth, but a graduation from illusion. Edgar Cayce spoke of vibrational alignment, a soul state so attuned to the source that it no longer resonates with the densities that bind one to form. This is not about moral perfection, but energetic coherence. Liberation is vibrational, not conceptual. Every thought, every emotion, every intention generates a frequency. Over lifetimes, the soul learns to master this inner symphony, not by suppression, but by integration. When all parts of the self, shadow and light, wound and wisdom, are seen, held and harmonized, the soul enters a higher octave of being. It no longer reacts, it emanates. This vibrational purity is not achieved through force or asceticism, but through deep listening, through choosing peace over conflict, presence over projection, love over fear, not as dogma, but as a lived resonance. In this space, even karma dissolves, for there is no longer a self clinging to outcome or identity. Cayce taught that the soul's freedom arises when it becomes indistinguishable from the divine current that birthed it. At that point, there is nothing left to return to, because there is no longer any separation to resolve. Have you felt moments where your energy becomes still, vast and wordless, as if you are touching something eternal? Between lives, according to Edgar Cayce, the soul returns not to a void, but to a realm of light, of learning, a space where it communes with what he called the Council of Souls. Here, freed from the illusions of form, the soul reviews its choices, its echoes, its intentions, not with judgment but with clarity. A clarity so total, it pierces the veil of personality and reveals the soul's deeper trajectory. These councils are not hierarchies of power, but fields of consciousness, collectives of beings who guide with resonance, not command. They assist the soul in perceiving the vibrational consequences of its actions, offering insight, not decree. From this space, the soul chooses its next incarnation, fee or not. And some souls, when entering this field of review, come to a startling recognition. There is nothing more to return for. The lessons are complete. The polarities have collapsed into unity. There is no pull, no weight, no echo unresolved. These souls are offered a choice, and in many cases they choose to remain in service without form, or to rejoin the source completely. Cayce described these as rare, luminous presences, souls who had become harmonics of divine will. They exist not above us, but within the deeper architecture of what we truly are. Karma is not punishment. It is resonance. The echo of choices, the mirror of intention. In Cayce's teachings, karma operates not to condemn, but to harmonize. Every thought and deed leaves a vibrational imprint, and the soul, ever seeking equilibrium, returns to balance what is unresolved. Reincarnation, then, is the soul's own compass returning to the places where its harmony was once lost. But what happens when the echoes fall silent? When the soul has learned not just through doing, but through being, there is a state where karma no longer binds, because the self has ceased to divide the world into good or bad, self or other, sacred or profane. All has become one. This does not mean the absence of action, but the purification of motive. The soul acts, but not from need. It moves, but without disturbance. Its presence alone recalibrates. In this stillness, karma ceases because duality has dissolved. There is nothing left to reflect, nothing left to resolve. Cayce hinted that these souls, having gone beyond the wheel, are not above others, but simply no longer magnetized by polarity. They exist like clear bells in the great silence, sounding only when called by love itself. When a soul no longer needs to reincarnate, it stands at a sacred threshold, not of escape, but of choice. Edgar Cayce spoke of these moments not as endpoints, but as openings. The soul, fully free, may merge back into source, or choose to return, not for itself, but for others. This is the path of the awakened servant, not out of duty, out of love. These are the souls who re-enter the human experience without karmic necessity. They are not here to correct, but to illuminate. They incarnate in silence, without spectacle, often unnoticed, yet their frequency shifts the collective field. Their presence brings clarity where there was confusion, peace where there was resistance. They are the quiet ones, the teachers who teach without words, the children who seem ancient, the healers who never claim a title. In Cayce's vision, They have no more debt to pay, no more veils to pierce, and still they come, to hold the hands of those still crossing the river of forgetfulness, to walk beside the struggling without interference, only presence. Their lives are offerings, their hearts bridges, and their return is not a fall from grace, but a descent in love, a sacred spiral downward to lift others upward. Have you ever felt the pull to serve without reward, to love without condition? To cease reincarnating is not to vanish, but to merge. Edgar Cayce described the soul's final return not as a destination, but as a reabsorption, a dissolving into the eternal light from which all arises. This merging is not loss, it is expansion. The drop remembers it was always the ocean. There is no drama in this return, no trumpets, no gates, only stillness, a stillness that is not empty, but full. In this silence, the soul no longer perceives itself as separate. The identity that spanned lifetimes fades like mist in morning light. What remains is essence, pure awareness, a knowing beyond language. Cayce emphasized that this state is not reserved for saints or mystics, but is the birthright of every soul. It is not achieved through belief, but through becoming. The soul, having explored all polarities, joy and sorrow, power and surrender, returns to its origin not as it was, but as it has become, enriched, whole, conscious of its unity with all. This is not annihilation, it is communion. It is not rest, it is resonance, the soul's light pulsing in perfect harmony with the divine field. Have you felt moments when your sense of I disappears and only presence remains? Not all souls who complete the cycle choose to merge. Some remain, not in body, but in the subtle realms, as unseen guides, quiet companions to those still walking the earth's lessons. Edgar Cayce often spoke of these presences. They do not intrude, they do not command. They whisper through intuition, through dreams, through the subtle touch of grace. These souls are not ghosts. They are frequencies, refined, compassionate, intimate with human suffering, yet no longer bound by it. They have known fear and transcended it. They have known love and become it. And now they serve the unfolding without agenda, holding space for the awakening of others. Sometimes you feel them in the silence after a question, in the warmth that floods your heart without cause, in the moment you choose forgiveness over resentment, or truth over comfort. They are there, not doing for you, but being with you, amplifying your own inner light. Cayce suggested that these souls are part of a greater network, a luminous architecture that supports evolution from behind the veil. They are not above, but interwoven with our journey, like roots beneath a forest floor. Have you ever felt helped in a way that defies logic, as if someone somewhere knew exactly what you needed? There is a silence at the end of the journey, not the silence of absence, but of arrival. Edgar Cayce described it not as an ending, but as a sacred return. The soul, having walked countless paths, remembered countless names, and carried countless stories, now lays them down. Not because they are forgotten, but because they are fulfilled. The soul no longer seeks, it sees, it no longer believes. It knows, it no longer strives, it flows. What once seemed like lifetimes of struggle are revealed to be acts in a single divine play. And the actor, the eternal witness, now awake within itself. This return is wordless. It does not need ceremony, only presence. The soul simply aligns, breath by breath, into stillness. It becomes like light through clear glass, unshaped, untouched, unmistakably whole, not above the world, but finally one with it. Perhaps in reading this, you've remembered something too, a fragment of a truth that has no language, a quiet sense that you've been here before, that not just in body, but in essence, that you are not learning something new, but remembering what was never lost. And maybe, just maybe, this is your final life, or maybe it is one step closer to that great silence. Either way, honor what has stirred. Let it grow, let it guide. Subscribe to join others walking this path of remembrance. And in the comments, share this final reflection. What part of you has always known? What in you is already home?